Okay, I'm Jussi Mannerberg. I work for Boomeranger Boats, the ribs that you can see down in the harbor. And today I'm going to tell you about some science again and some measurements we have been doing on our boats and how to deal with the problem of the European Union Directive on whole body impacts and vibration. And our approach to this has been to go out there and do some measurements and how can we actually answer the questions of the directive by the European governments now requiring that in the procurements of all new boats. And is it enter? Yeah. Oh, just okay. Oh, this one. Okay, thanks. Okay. Okay. So now I'm focusing to talk about the European governments because, of course, the legislation is only valid in our countries. It is a strong, it's the law. So basically, we need to comply with this requirement. And what we're going to discover here, it's not so easy. And also, I'm going to show you some exciting results. So please try to stay awake until the end, because that's when the results are coming. Okay, so we needed to know what to answer to this. It's probably one line just to provide. Sometimes there is a text that, okay, follow the European law, or sometimes it provides shock mitigation seats, or it varies a lot, but however it's there. And this is specifically for employees of companies or the governments. The directive states the limits for allowed human impact exposure. You saw a little bit earlier in the presentation of the Coast Guard project already that there is a problem involved to fulfill the requirements. We are exceeding them in most cases, probably all. The limits are so strict that no real mission or normal military training session or any other operation in sea states higher than 0 will lead to exceeding the limits. So this makes the employer responsible for the injuries. So how can we deal with that? Okay, the directive says that, okay, you have to provide the best available means to reduce impact exposure. So that's what we are after. We are trying now to compare how, with the present, we have two ways. We can use them both. One is to build so good boats that they will give you less shocks. Better boats, more seaworthy boats. That's one way. That's we are good at, but that's not the subject today. The subject is to how to deal with the shock mitigating seats and how to compare them, which are giving us the best result. Also, we were interested to see what kind of forces are there actually on the boat. We have been doing measurements on the boats on the past 15 years on impact loads and the results are pretty much in line what we have been discovering previously, but this latest test we did is giving some more insight to it. Of course, we also wanted to get some more advice how we can explain the problem and how to reduce. How can we tell that we are doing the best we can? Okay, the study. We used that boat, which is there in the harbor. That's why we brought it here also, to show you that boat we have been measuring. And some of you already had the opportunity to sit in the boat and we wanted to get some baseline values for future research and also to compare with the other hulls we are producing and to actually measure the impact exposure on 2 different kind of seeds. Okay, that's just a bigger picture of the boat. As you can see, the test seeds in this case were in the front, just to make sure that we're getting big impact. So we were measuring on the most forward ones. So we're actually getting some real differences, if there are. So we used a measuring data acquisition system from two different Valitech crossbow and Gulf Coast electronic systems, and they were mounted on a kidney belt on our. I have to admit, we are doing human testing, so we did mount them on 2 very nice guys of the same weight, and they were young enough to be able to survive. They are still walking. They are actually here. So basically, by that way we could actually measure the actual forces on the person. Then we did some high-speed filming from front and back, and then we were of course logging the track, speed, heading with the GPS. And then we were logging the weather from the weather buoy and the wave buoy. We had all the data we wanted to see. That's where we did the testing, actually in outside our factory in Finland, in a very, let's see the next slide. Yeah, this was, yes, there was no ice. It was raining, it was snowing, I think, and but it was the typical weather, as you can see, 3 degrees Celsius, where you're getting the nice storms and nice. It wasn't a storm, but it was producing very nasty waves, because it's that's a typical in the Baltic area that the sort of the building sea state is very sharp waves. It's not the sort of ocean waves. It's the ones that are the worst. They are really giving a good shake. Wave height 1.6 meters. Boat speed. Actually, I just checked that the boat speed was up to 41, but between 20 and 41 were the measurement speeds. Start. Yep. So it's sort of normal operational weather. Cold, wet. There's the camera actually mounted filming forward. Then we had the accelerometer also on the hull, and that was mounted inside the console to keep it dry, because it wasn't a weatherproof system. So it was slightly in a different location to the seat. We're going to see that in the results. Okay, so then you see that we were tracking and logging, and then most of the measurements were done here. This is a sandbank, or sort of it's a rock actually, but this is the area where we were going up and down. But very good testing area. It's actually our factory is up there, see, in land there. Results on the boat, we were measuring just over 7 G. Then there's an other value which I'm not going to explain more in outside Europe, the Z8 value. This is what we measured or was calculated after handling the data and fitting it into the algorithm. Was measured. Or result was 2.84. Some of you may know this, which is much lower than the 4.7 megapascals, which is the limit suggested by the US Navy. So this was quite interesting. Okay, here. See typical. It shows the impact on the boat and both the the red line is the one of the seats, and the green line is the other seat. Oh, okay, it doesn't show. Oh, you are, okay. Yes. You have a laser here. That's red, that's blue, and that's green. But we've got more details here. Okay. Exciting. It doesn't look that bad, doesn't it? Well, it's like sitting on a couch at home. But the actual measurements which are showing the peak values in this picture is a typical impact event. The boat is 3.4 G, seat A 2.5 Gs, and seat B 7.6 Gs. How come? That's one seat and that's the other seat. There's another one seat which is 10 G. What's happening? Like, it looks like a, but I have to tell that the guys were holding like hell. They're actually in the picture. That was you couldn't see what the real happening was, but we had to slow down because the other guy was starting to suffer. And you can guess which one he was sitting on. Here one seat reaches 11 Gs. And both were shock mitigating sheets. What is happening? There's a typical period between the impacts, so this is like 1 second between, you can see from, this is a time scale, so approximately 1 second between these. Quite typical, going upwind right into the wind. Pretty much, you everybody agree? You've been doing these measurements? It's a pretty typical interval between the impacts. This graph shows 6.5 on the boat, 4 on the seat B, and 11.6 on the seat A. If the problem was that this was the top value of the accelerometer. It actually, if you extrapolate it, it would go up to 14, 15 Gs. But what we measured and reported is 11.6. That's the limit of the accelerometer. Whew. So seat A 11.8, and it actually seat A was giving multiplied exposure of human 3 times higher than the deck and hull impacts. So what is that? We are getting more impacts than the boat. B showing maximum value of 4. So B was working to reduce the impacts. There is one fact to note that the sensor of the boat was further aft. So if the boat sensor would have been under the seats, it would have been higher. On our opinion. Okay, let's. Okay, this is a real time. Like this is the 10th, so it's taken with a camera of 300 frames per second. So it's a slowed down version of the. Thank God they had kidney belts. So, analysis. Why is because one of the seats was bottoming out. So basically, it was actually multiplying the effect of the impacts. You can see on the pictures and the speeds that the seat actually stops at the end of the stroke. So you're actually being hit. We compared the values of the boat. They are pretty much comparable to the other measurements we've been doing. Of course, if we compare against other hulls, we should be doing by simultaneous in the same weather, everything same way. So like, we can't build so good hulls that you don't actually exceed the EU directive. So we need to provide more protection and pretty much proven here that we can reduce the impacts by one of the seats. The other seat was leading to actually multiplication of the exposure. So this is a start of a long, of course, testing for future. We need to think about very much what we fit in the boats, but at least we can now say that we are providing technology that reduces the impacts. The best available technology, only the seat B would be considered for the use. Of course, better hulls. There are other ways also to make, even in cabin boats, we can tell you some other day how you can do it even better, but that's another story. Questions?